I was raised as a white Christian nationalist. I was told that America was blessed by God as a Christian nation, and I was given conservative politics as an outline for what Christian political engagement should look like. I have fully rejected those political ideas, and I've done it not because I've stopped being a Christian, but because I follow the way of Jesus. See, white evangelical political priorities are diametrically opposed to biblical political priorities. Jesus and the Hebrew prophets were focused on real human need, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, healing the sick, and lifting up the poor. While Christian nationalists are mostly concerned about protecting the power of their Christianity, their version of Christianity, according to the prophet Amos, God says, I hate your religious ceremonies because you're ignoring the pain of the poor. The more marginal someone was in society, the more likely Jesus was to focus on them. Every human being is valuable in exactly the same way, but our world fails to acknowledge that value. We place some lives above others, and we treat some people as expendable. A truly Christian politics is focused on building a society where no one is expendable, but everyone matters in exactly the same way because we all matter to God. When Jesus described the criteria for how God would judge a nation, he said it would be based on how that nation treated incarcerated people, immigrants, and the unhoused poor. It seems completely obvious that a politics motivated by the priorities of Jesus will be focused on ending mass incarceration, lifting up refugees and immigrants, reducing income inequality, making sure everyone has health care, and building a society where the groups who have been sidelined and dehumanized are brought into full communion as members of our beloved human family. White evangelical priorities don't tend to touch on those things at all. Instead, the politics of white Christian nationalism tends to be about reasserting white patriarchal dominance. Their legislative agenda that we see in Project 2025 doesn't look anything like the priorities of Jesus. Rather than legislating to reduce child poverty, they legislate to control women and sexual minorities. The fact that the top 1% in the country owns over 30% of the wealth, while the bottom half of the country owns almost no wealth, that doesn't come up at all, but they do want to get rid of gay marriage. And the way they seek to accomplish these priorities is through a horrible tactic called scapegoating. This is how they rile up their base to implement their ideas. Scapegoating is when we load all of our fears and antagonisms onto a marginalized group and demonize them. During segregation, white Christians did this by pushing the myth that black men were coming for their white women, and they lynched thousands of innocents. In centuries past, scapegoating was done with witches and heretics. White Christians in Germany scapegoated the Jewish people. In our country now, white Christians are blaming their economic woes on immigrants flooding through the southern border. And of course, on sexual minorities. The trans community in particular is facing the brunt of their toxicity. They're only 1% to 2% of the population, but according to conservatives, they're essentially the demise of our culture. The fact that trans people commit suicide in higher numbers and are murdered at higher rates doesn't stop conservatives from bullying them incessantly. And this is not based in reality. Like my friend April Ajoy recently